Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Knowledge is Power, where we have different experts of their view coming to share with us in the next hours, sharing something that will trigger you, sharing something that will help you, because that's our goal in the Year the Girl 40 Plus community. We are the educational platform for you to come and learn from us, to use the knowledge you gain to become self-sufficient. Today, we're speaking to parents or step parents. Okay, women in general, okay? Even that I'm sure you will be dealing with kids in your life, even that they're yours or they're not yours. I know that even for me, myself, I have trouble and I don't know how to work around kids. Being a childless woman myself, I find it very difficult to actually control my emotion when I am not at my best. And I know that for a lot of us, what do? We start yelling when things is not going our way. And that's not a very nice thing to do. And I know that, but I didn't know there is a better way to do things. Until I met this amazing lady today. Her name is Natalie. Hi, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining us on our platform today.
Thank you so much, Martha. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to be here to share some things with
Yes.
you today.
Definitely. So today our topic is from chaos to calm, how to stop losing your shit. And that's the honest truth. Even at work or at home, especially around children, a lot of the time we have to regulate our emotion and our wording. And how do you just keep doing that in every second? So please tell us about a bit of your background and what you do to help people who are struggling with this emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're definitely not alone. A lot of parents actually think I'm the only one that yells or I'm the only person that does this. And it's just not true. We all do it to different degrees. And I do it myself. I did it myself, and that is why I do the work I do. Um, so I've been working with parents for 5 years now, after doing a lot of my own work, which we'll get into as the session goes on, um, to help them regulate their emotions and to stop that feeling of like, there's nothing I can do about it. This is just the way I am. And it's just not true. There is another way. And I love being able to show parents another way of being able to do things because that is the way that I think that we really create this change in the world. Like we can't do it without um, having this way of being, this different way of being. And instead of thinking, I'm just stuck, this is just who I am, I'm always a yeller, I promise you, you're not. Yeah. And that's what I love showing parents how to do.
Wonderful. Hi, Fiona. Thank you for joining us onto the webinar into it. And yes, that's what I wanted to hear because like I know that a lot of us do deal with kids. Like even I'm a childless woman myself. I do have a stepdaughter from my partner. And sometimes these sort of things does make it even more difficult. It's like I wanted to say something, but in a sense that I need to have the respect to parents. And then I end up learning not to say something and I have to internalize what I do. But sometimes I see the way that they're suffering, and especially the children, that they're not being at their best potential. And I find it really difficult for me to know what to do. So I'm really looking forward to your presentation today to share with us what we can do next and how can we actually be better. So I'm very, very excited to do that. So I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to mute myself, turn my screen off, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. Okay. Just gonna, okay. Hopefully you can see that all fine.
Yes, all good.
Excellent. Okay. So welcome, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here today for the next hour or so to learn how to stop losing your shit. As Martha introduced me, I am Natalie. I'm a parent coach. My business is See Me Circle, and I help parents go from chaos to calm and really give them another way, as I spoke about at the start, to learn how to stop losing their shit, learn that there is a different way to yelling. It's not the only way we can get our kids to listen to us, I promise you. And we're also going to learn today, how we can stop yelling. So this is what we're going to go through today. So feel free to ask questions, put it in the chat as we go along, and I will get to them at the end. I want this session to be very interactive. You're here to learn, treat this next hour as, I know you haven't paid anything for it, but treat it as if you have, so that you can get the most benefit out of it. You are spending your time, so our time is precious, and I really want you to make the most of your time here today. So, I am just noticing that I can't go to the next slide. Martha and I did check this before we got on.
Oh, well, it happens.
There we go. Can you see the next slide now?
Yes, I can.
Oh, awesome. All right. So bear with us if we have some technical difficulties. Thank you. So in the next 60 minutes, you're going to learn why yelling is not your fault, what you can do about it, and how to create change that lasts. So we are going to jump right in. But before we do, I just want to tell you a little bit more about myself. So who am I and why should you listen to me? So I'm a wife and a mum to 2 boys who are 8 and 11. I've dealt with anger issues my whole life. So you might hear some people say, and you might be one of them yourselves, that say, I was the good girl. I did, everything that I was told, but that meant that I pushed down all of my emotions. That was not me. I was never the good girl. I always spoke my mind, got really angry about how things were. And it wasn't necessarily in a good way, because it just led to a lot of raging, really. So that's why I say, when I've dealt with anger issues my whole life, I had no way to know how to manage my anger, how to manage my emotions, not let them spill out onto other people in really, negative ways. So before I became a mum, I really wanted to make sure that my anger wasn't going to spill out onto my kids. I was really worried about that. So I did a lot of work on myself. I got on webinars like the one that you're on today. I listened to podcasts. I read books. I did all the things that I possibly could to get all of the information that I could to, change myself, basically, learn how to control my emotions. And I could be on those places, those webinars, or listening to those podcasts, or reading those books and saying, yes, 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 like I agree with everything. This all makes complete sense. But to put it into practice, there was a massive gap. It wasn't happening. Even though I knew everything I had to do, I could not do it in the moment. So that's when I decided to invest in myself and my family, and I signed up for some courses. So I signed up for mindful parenting with Hunter Clark Fields. I signed up for consciously parenting with Rebecca Thompson Hitt, and I learnt so much from those people in those trainings, and it really changed my life. And I was in those trainings for about 5 years before I was like, this is working so well. I really want to teach this to other parents. Like, parents need this information. And that is why I then decided to become a mindful parenting teacher, a family holistic and wellness consultant, and a circle facilitator. So I was out there in the world helping parents. So I've done, and I continue to do, the work on myself. I'm still in coaching programs, and I'm still helping other parents as they go along. So I really do live what I teach. And while I don't claim to be perfect, I am not perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. I do the work every day, and I use these tools and strategies that I'm going to be teaching you in the workshop every day in my everyday life. And I teach them to other parents and to help them have a more peaceful and calm home. So I'm really excited to be able to share some of these with you here today. Thanks for the hearts, Fee. Okay, so let's begin. It's not your fault. It's just your brain doing its job. So when I say it's just your brain doing its job, what do I mean by that? So our brain is wonderful. Like it helps us think, it gives us creativity, and it does the most important thing of all, which is keep us safe. It helps us basically not to get into dangerous situations and die. Basically, that is our job's our brain's main job is to just keep us safe, okay, and make sure that we are safe at all times. The problem with that is we have evolved so quickly that our brain doesn't know the difference between a tiger chasing us, which had been happening thousands of years ago, and a toddler screaming at us. To our brain, both of those things are danger. It puts the alarm on. It's like danger, danger, danger. Do whatever you need to do to get out of this situation and keep yourself safe. So I'm going to bring up, this is a very simple, simplistic slide of what the brain looks like and what happens when we're stressed. So basically we have our upper brain. So if you were to put your hand on your forehead, it's just behind your palm of your hand there. And that is our logical, creative thinking part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex. Then all the way at the back here, if you can see, so if you were to put your hand on the base of your skull, where the base of your skull meets your neck, that is our lower brain. So our primal brain, some people call it the reptilian brain. And that is where all of our instinct and fear comes from. That's actually the very first place, part of the brain that gets developed when we're in the womb. So it develops from the bottom up, okay? So, and within our lower brain, so if you were to get your 2 index fingers and place them behind your ears, you can kind of feel like there's a bone there where the skull is. That inside there is where our amygdala are. So we've got 2 of those on either side, and that is our fight, flight, or freeze response. So that is what gets switched on when our brain senses danger. So the tiger chasing us, the toddler screaming at us, the teenager slamming the door in our face, all of these things feel like danger, and that gets switched on when we go into, which makes us go into fight, which is yelling, flight, which is just walking away, not saying anything, okay, or freeze, where we just stand there completely numb and immobilized, right? None of these things are very good for connection. But the problem is that when we are stressed, when that fight, flight, or freeze part of our brain gets turned on, we lose complete access to our thinking brain. It gets completely shut off. And the reason for that is that, again, if we're going back to the tiger chasing us, we don't want to waste time thinking about what we should do if a tiger's coming at us. We don't want to waste time thinking, oh, should I run? Should I climb up a tree? Should I stand my ground and yell back at it? Because by the time we do all those things, we're going to be eaten. So it makes sense that this is why, we just go into reactivity straight away, because we're just trying to keep ourselves safe. And again, like I said, our brain doesn't know the difference between actual real threat danger and just something that's like a child yelling at us, or a teenager, being rude or disrespectful or slamming doors in our face or doing whatever they're doing. Like, it doesn't know. To them, it's all a dangerous thing. So it's really good to understand that, because it's why when people say, oh, just take a breath before you feel like yelling, you can't, because this part of your brain that remembers to take a breath, that knows it's not a good idea to yell, like, don't yell, it's lost access. We're all in the back of our brain, like, just get the hell out of here, like, do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe, even when we don't want to do that thing, even when we don't want to yell, even when we don't want to numb out. So I just really want to make sure that you understand that. If you've got any questions about that, please type them in the chat and let me know. But yeah, it's why I say it's not your fault. It's just your brain doing its job. Okay. So what can we do about it? Like, is there anything that we can do about it? Yes, there absolutely is. Okay. So the first thing, before we could get into more of the details of what we can do in the moment, is once we have yelled, we can give ourselves compassion for it. Okay. So what does that look like? It looks like, putting your hands on your heart, taking a few deep breaths, and just acknowledging that you made a mistake. Okay. We don't usually do this. What we usually do is we have this little conversation in our head that goes something like this, and see if you can relate to this. I can't believe you yelled. You're the worst mum in the world. Like, you know better than this. All of these things. And I want to tell you that beating yourself up for yelling does not stop you from yelling. And I'm going to say that again. Giving yourself a hard time about yelling does not stop you from yelling again. If it did, none of us would be on this call. This is how we would stop yelling. We'd just do something like this. I can't believe you yelled. You're the worst mum in the world. Don't ever do that again. And you would never yell again. We wish that would happen. That would be great. We just have to say one thing and we'd never yell again. And unfortunately, that's not how our brains work. And it's not how we work as humans. So don't give yourself another layer of, another layer of guilt on top of the yelling. Then you're guilting yourself for yelling and then putting another layer of guilt on top of that. So giving yourself compassion for yelling, putting your hands on your heart, taking some breaths, speaking to yourself in a kind voice, like, it's okay, my love. You made a mistake. And if it feels like some people don't like talking to themselves like that, think about, what your best friend would say to you if you told her, I just yelled at my kids, I'm the worst mum in the world. Would you say something like, it's okay. We're all mistake-making humans and imperfect parents. And that is the reality of it. And, when we can give ourselves that compassion, we're really able to show up better next time, to be more compassionate towards ourselves and more compassionate towards the situation. Okay, so I really want you to take that in. Think about, that's available to you anytime. You can put your hands on your heart anytime. You can put your hands on your heart halfway through yelling. Eventually, if you do this often enough, straight after you've yelled, you put your hands on your heart and take a breath, you'll be able to start to do it halfway through yelling, 3/4 of the way through, 1/4 of the way through. And then eventually, before you even go to yell, you'll be able to access doing that. So the thing that I want to offer you here as well is that we are not, sometimes we can feel really that we're the only people that yell at their kids. Like, no other mum is as bad as me. Okay. Believe me, I had this thought too. I thought no one else possibly could yell at their kids as much as I do. No one else is as worse a mum as me. And then you get into, when I started doing these courses that I was talking about at the start, and you hear from other parents, and you're like, oh, they think that they're the only ones that yell as well. And it really opens your eyes that this is why community is so important, to know, like, oh, I'm not actually the only one that does this. I'm not the worst mum in the world. I'm just made a mistake. Okay. And then in that moment, if you have time, after you've been able to do repair with your child, to apologize, in that moment or later on in the day, think about and then write down. The writing down part's really important. What was happening before you yelled? Okay. So to give an example, maybe your child, called you stupid, and that really like triggered something inside of you. Or maybe you walked in to the kitchen and there was a mess all over the kitchen benches or on the floor. And, you had thoughts about that. You just like exploded, and you're like, oh my God, my child always leaves a mess. Like, they never clean up after themselves, even though I've told them that they need to do that multiple times. They disrespect me. They're so lazy. You might even have a thought that goes way into the future. I'm very guilty of this when things like this happen with my kids. Like, how are they going to be when they're an adult and they have to live in a share house, or they have a partner or family? They're just going to be a slob. Like, so we have all of these thoughts that kind of come into our head that make us, before we've even realized, like, just explode them all out. And it's why it's really important to get all of those thoughts out of your head and write them down on a piece of paper, in your journal, wherever you can. If you type it, that's totally fine. I'm personally am a writer, so I like to write things down. And then see all the thoughts and recognize that they are just thoughts. The circumstance is neutral. And what do I mean by the circumstance is neutral? So you could come into the kitchen, see a massive mess and totally lose it. Your partner could come into the kitchen, see the mess and think nothing of it at all. So they might have, in fact, the complete opposite thought to you. So if there was a mess all over the kitchen bench, they might think, oh, isn't it wonderful? Our child has got all the food out for themselves and made themselves a meal all on their own. Isn't that great? Or if there was a mess on the floor from toys, say, or Lego, they're like, oh, look, they've made this amazing Lego creation here. It's the same exact circumstance, just two people have completely different thoughts about it. Yeah, I know for me personally, some people get really triggered by their child calling them names or saying stuff like, I hate you. Like, it really, really like gets them inside. My husband is one of those people. For me, it just doesn't bother me. It doesn't trigger me at all. So it's the same thing that's happening, except I don't have any thoughts about it. I don't make that it mean anything. And my husband makes it mean they're disrespecting me. So noticing your thoughts and, how they are impacting how you're showing up, to your kids and the other adults in your life as well. And then when we go beyond, when we've worked out, okay, these are all of my thoughts about it, Then also noticing what was happening before I walked into the kitchen. Had I just come home from work, that was a really stressful day, and there was horrendous traffic, and this is what I walked into, you're going to be having a really bad reaction if that's the case, because you're already stressed, your maximum level's already reached. Or maybe, you've been home and you've been on a work call and you've realized, it's now 2 o'clock and you only had a cup of coffee for breakfast. So you had a terrible night's sleep the night before. All of those things are also going to impact. If it's to do with your child, you might, and they're the ones who've had a meltdown, maybe they haven't eaten in a while. Maybe they didn't have a good night's sleep the night before. Maybe, something was disrupted in their day. They were meant to go on a play date, or Nana was meant to come over and they couldn't for some reason. So they're upset about that. Write down the things that were happening before. And I guarantee you, if you do this for just even 1 week, you'll start to notice patterns. Okay? You'll start to notice patterns of your thoughts, and you'll start to notice patterns of, eating, sleeping, stress. And when we can notice that, we can really, again, come back to that compassion piece, but we can really make some changes there. Because if we think that our child has some character flaw, like they're so lazy or they're disrespectful, we're going to want to do everything in our power as their parent to try to change that. Like, no, I need to not let my child grow up like this. But the problem with doing that is that it has nothing to do with a character flaw. It's just their thoughts. And while we do want to guide our children to, know that they do need to clean up, we're not going to be able to do that by yelling at them. As much as we know this, we think we can just yell them into submission. It's like, if they would just listen to me, it would be so much easier. I can't tell you how many times I've said that to myself. I can't tell you how many times my clients have said that to me. If they would just listen, it would all just be so easy. Yeah, it would be, but it's unfortunately not reality. So really recognizing that this is how it goes, and we have this responsibility to guide our children. And as much as we think we know all the answers, yelling them into submission doesn't work. It might work for some children short term, but it definitely doesn't work for long term. And I'm here for the long game. I'm here to raise adults and not just, get short term obedience. I want to have long term relationship and connection. So that's what we're talking about here in this first section of having compassion for ourselves, and then going to the next part, which is evaluating our thoughts and recognizing where they're coming from. Okay? All those things are really important in being able to actually make progress and move forward. So we're going to be, if I can see some chat, but I'll come back to questions at the end. So I just feel like I am going to get a bit distracted otherwise, and I'm just going to take a drink of water. Okay. And before we move on to the next section, I just want to, remind you that putting your hands on your heart is available to you anytime, as is taking a breath, and it really helps to calm your nervous system. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about to help us stop losing our shit is having a meditation practice. Now, before you freak out and say, I don't have time to meditate, I just want to offer that in meditation, there's no other goal than to simply be yourself as you are right now. So meditation does not have to look like what this beautiful woman's doing here, which is sitting in the yoga pose. You can do it sitting, you can do it standing, you can do it lying down in bed. You don't have to do it for a long amount of time, but you do have to do it for a consistent amount of time. So what do I mean by that? Is that doing even just 1 minute a day for 5 days is much better than doing 15 minutes once a week. So lots of people have heard of meditation, but again, I want to offer this quote as a way to show you, like, meditation is just focusing on your breath. That is, when I'm talking about meditation, that's what I'm speaking about here. Just focusing on your breath. Feeling your breath go in through your nose, out through your mouth, or out through your nose. Noticing where it's coming in. So if you've got time, or if it's available to you right now, I invite you to close down your eyes. If you're driving, please don't do this. And just take a breath in and take a breath out. And just take one more. And as you do it, just notice, where can you feel your breathing? You feel it in your nostrils, at your mouth, your chest, your stomach. You can open your eyes and just noticing where you're breathing, feeling your feet on the floor if you're sitting in a chair, feeling the contact of where your body's meeting the ground if you're sitting on the floor. Okay. That's all meditation has to be. It can be 1 minute, it can be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't matter, as long as, like I said, you're doing it consistently. I've been meditating since before my eldest was born, so it's been over 11 years now. I haven't always done it consistently, and I really notice when I'm not doing it consistently, and my stress levels start to kind of rise. My reactivity is not where it should be, and everything kind of starts to go a bit downhill. So I've been consistently now meditating since 2019, 2020. So it's been, like 5 years. And it has completely changed my life. And when we go back to what we were talking about at the start, about not being able to access that thinking part of our brain when we're stressed out, like we think, oh, just take a breath. We can't take a breath when we're stressed, when we've never taken a breath when we're calm, an intentional breath. Like, we've just got no chance of doing it. It just doesn't work that way. So we need to be practicing it regularly so that we can access it when we are stressed. That is the main thing to remember here. And there are lots of ways that you can meditate. There's lots of apps out there. I personally use Insight Timer. It's got thousands of meditations on there. It also has a timer to help you time your meditations if you're just doing a breathing meditation. And it is a really, really great way to calm yourself, calm your mind, calm your body, and just get into your body, be in that present moment. Another form of meditation is just doing a body scan. So again, you can do this in bed. It's just simply bringing awareness to the parts of your body, like your fingers, your hands, your arms. If you do a Google search on yoga nidra, that It takes you through the different parts of the body, and it is a great way to get you back into your body. And it really promotes restfulness. And if you do it before you go to bed, it really helps you have a good night's sleep as well. So I highly recommend that too. Now, even after me saying all this about meditation and you're still like, nah, I just don't think I can do it, it's just not for me, you can also do mindfulness. So mindfulness is a bit different to meditation in that we're not noticing the breath, but we are noticing and being present with what is right now. So that can be as simple as when you step outside, you feel the sun on your face. The sun's shining a bit here today in Melbourne, so which is wonderful. Or you feel the breeze on your skin. If you're going for a bit of a longer walk, even if it's just a walk to, from the office to your car or, wherever you are, you're just noticing the sounds. If you can also do it in your everyday things that you do every day, like brushing your teeth, making a cup of coffee, washing the dishes, hanging out the washing. Usually when we do these daily tasks, our mind is racing on everything else that we have to do. So instead of, for example, if you're making a cup of tea or coffee in the morning, you're really thinking about what you're doing. So I'm pouring the water in the cup. You're bringing the cup up to your nose and just smelling it, just inhaling it. You're taking that first sip and noticing how it feels. And even if that's all you do, you just notice the first sip and you did that every day, like that's amazing mindfulness. And it really, again, it gets you into that present moment. Okay? Because when we yell, we're usually not in the present moment because our thoughts are thinking about the past or the future. So to get us out of that, the more that we're able to practice being in the present moment, noticing our breathing if we're doing a meditation exercise, it's really going to be helpful to us to do it in the moment when we feel like yelling. I like to give this example of, if you know NBA basketball, you're not just going to start your child playing basketball for the NBA. Like they need to practice before they get there. They need to do maybe the little junior league basketball and then work their way up and see how they go to be able to get to, that pro basketball state. They don't start there. But this is the thing that people want to just start there. They want to just be like, I can just take a breath when I'm angry without ever having practiced taking a breath when you're calm before. So the more you practice, the better you're going to be able to access it in the moment. And the wonderful thing about this, and research has been done about this when they've researched people who've meditated and had a meditation practice, is that it actually shrinks the amygdala. So that's what I was talking about at the start, the fight, flight, or freeze response. It shrinks their reactivity and it increases compassion and awareness. So all of these are fantastic reasons to start a meditation practice or resume one or do mindfulness. I like to say, like, for me personally, I do it every day, but start with 5 days a week, even if it's just a minute, even if it's 30 seconds, just start somewhere and you'll start to notice the difference in yourself and your reactivity. Okay. All right. If there's any questions, please type them in. If you've got any questions about meditation. Get another drink of water. And before we move on to the next section. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is something that's going to sound super simple, but it's something that we often don't think about, and that is overscheduled days. So in our culture, we're taught it's more is better. You know, we need to have X, Y, Z to be happy. And unfortunately, this also comes into play when we're talking about our kids' activities. You know, they need to be enrolled. You know, parents can feel this pressure to put these kids in all of these extra activities. And, you know, I made a very conscious choice when I became a parent that I wasn't going to do that. And my children are only in one activity each. And this, at the start of this year, a few things came up that a few friends had asked us, you know, do they want to come and, you know, be a part of this soccer group club, you know? And I was actually starting to question, like, they're only really doing one thing, you know. At this point, I'd actually decided like to enroll them into two things. And I'm like, this would be the third thing that they did. And I really had to sit with myself and go, I could hear that voice, that society voice saying, oh, you don't have them enrolled in enough things, like they're missing out. Yeah, how often do we think that? Like they're missing out on something here. And I really sat with myself and I'm like, you know, that weekend we went on a walk and I'm like, as a family, and I'm like, if I'd enrolled them in that soccer group, we wouldn't be able to do this right now. We wouldn't be spending time together as a family. And I was like, I know I've made the right decision. So overscheduled days leads to stress. Okay? And free play, especially when we're talking about our kids, leads to them being happier. They do better in school, they have better language development, and they have improved self-control. Improved self-control is a huge one. If your child is stressed, the self-control is really like going to be taking a dive. So it's me. So when we like immerse our children in this like action-packed lifestyle of, oh, so much stuff, so much to do, you know, it stresses them out. And we also have to be the ones driving them around to all of these activities. If we have more than one child and we're taking them to different activities, you know, that's a lot. And it can really like add up to being a lot of stress for parents and for kids. So, and on top of the, you know, the scheduled of overscheduled days, we also have, you know, a lot of stuff, toys, clothes. It can create a lot of clutter in our household. It's more things that we need to look after and take care of. It's more money that we spend on all of these things. So those things need to be taken into consideration as well when you're thinking about your stress levels. Devices is another one, you know. When we have so much stuff that, you know, if we've got a younger child and they've got too much toys, they tip them all out on the floor and then they have a meltdown when they can't pack them all up. For an older child, if they've been on their screen for an hour or more, they have a meltdown when it's time to turn it off. So I'm just going to take a drink of water. I'm clearly talking too much. So we really want to recognize, you know, where we can reduce, you know, reduce our toys, reduce our stuff, reduce our clothing. We really want to, you know, recognize where we can make downtime a priority, where we can reduce our activities, where we can balance our busy days with calm days. You know, it's fine to have busy days. Of course, we all have those busy days, you know, and we all have those activities, and we all have, you know, work and all of the rest, family commitments. But we want to make sure that they're balanced with calm days, days that we basically have nothing on, that are pretty much free, a blank day, a white space in the calendar. If we can, do a screen-free day. If we can limit, and I'm very strong component of this, limiting screen time, not having any screen time during meals or car rides. And we need to model that too. Yeah. So if, you know, it's no point saying to our child, you can't have your phone at the table if we always have it at the table. It's no point saying to your child, you need to get rid of, you know, some of your toys or some of your clothes when we have a whole heap of stuff in our own, you know, space and a wardrobe that's overflowing. So modeling is, you know, a really good way to teach our kids about the importance of not overscheduling and not having, you know, this clutter and this, you know, more. Like we want to try to have less. We want to be saying yes to the things we want and no to the things that we don't want. Because when we say yes to the things that we don't want, you know, we're not honoring ourselves. We're not honoring what we want for our family. And then that can lead to us feeling resentment, which leads to us yelling, getting triggered, getting stressed a lot. They all, you know, come together. You know, again, these might sound like really obvious, but we don't actually take the time to think about how much is this actually really impacting our family's life, and how much of it do I actually want? Okay, so when you can start to notice it, you can start to take the action to make a change. And I really want you to invite you to write this down, type it in the chat if you like, write it down. If you're watching the replay, write it down in your journal. You know, what action are you going to take to simplify something in your life? You know, maybe it is donating some toys. Maybe it is getting rid of some clothes, donating some clothes. Maybe it is simplifying your schedule and having a look at how much activities you have on, and can some of those be reduced. Maybe it is reinstating some screen time limits or introducing a screen-free day. So think about that. Think about what you can do. And before we go into the next part, just going to take a drink. Okay, so as we wrap up today, I really want what we've spoken about today to actually create some action. Yeah. Webinars are great. Listening is great. But if we don't take any action, it just kind of falls away from our memory. All right. And I really want you to know that there is a way to create change that lasts. Okay. So how do we do that? So we're going to end today with a bit of a visualization. So again, I just invite you to place your hands on your heart, close down your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. You can just focus on a spot in front of you. Feel your feet on the floor. And just take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And I want you to just picture in your mind's eye a situation that you would really like to happen with your child or children. I want you to visualize where you are, what the space around you looks like, how you feel, what you're doing. And just really breathe that in. Just really make it as real as possible as you can in your mind. And I invite you to have the thought that this can be your reality. First, we make it a reality in our mind so that we can make it a reality in our life. And just take a few deep breaths. Before you open your eyes, just invite you to know that you can come back to this vision anytime you like. It is always available to you. And it is always a possibility. Whenever you feel ready, you can blink open your eyes. And I just invite you to just jot down a few things that you saw. Jot down a few things that you want to do to create change that lasts. Anything that's come up for you today, anything that you want to implement. Maybe it is, what are you going to do for a mindfulness activity every day? Write it down. And don't write it down as if you're already doing it. So every day I will spend time doing my mindfulness coffee. Every day I'm doing a meditation for 1 minute. Let's write it all down to make it cemented in your mind. Come back to that vision that you had anytime that you like. And I really want to thank you for spending time with me here today. If you would like to learn more, you can go onto my website, which is seemecircle.com. You can email me at seemecircle@outlook.com, or you can follow me on Facebook at seemecircle. And, I offer one-on-one coaching where we go much deeper into what we've spoken about today. And I also, if you live in Melbourne, I also offer group coaching and workshops and events. So you can find all of those things on my website, and also email me to reach out. So thank you so much. Once again, I am so thrilled that you were able to spend time with us here today. I know our time is very precious, and I really appreciate you taking the time to spend it with me and changing your family's life, going from chaos to calm. Thank you.
We have some wonderful feedback on the chat here that someone is actually saying that how grateful they are here because they're so parenting this week as they're preparing for event. So if there's Fiona, if you're not worried, feel free to actually ask any questions that you may have.
Thank you
Happy
for
to
the
have you.
chat. Yeah, really appreciate that.
Oh, I really appreciate running around, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can make it. But having done some of your parenting courses before, I'm like, actually, it'll be an hour well spent, and it really, yeah, it's really been good because it's just given me that back in, and the compassion piece, right?
Yeah, so supportive.
Do you have any, I just put in the chat, any suggestions of good free meditation mindfulness for kids like that 5 to 8-ish? Because I've been doing some upstairs, downstairs brain work with my own son and some of the young people I work with, and I just clocked today that it's like when they're in the moment of overwhelm, actually they can't use those skills. So I need to actually incorporate some of the actual practice with them.
Yeah. Are you on Insight Timer? Have you got the Insight Timer app?
No.
Yeah, I really highly recommend that. I mean, it is mostly for adults, but there are some kids' meditations on there. Again, it's probably better that there's not so much because you're not going to get overwhelmed by the amounts. But yeah, it's a completely free app. And yeah, they've got thousands of meditations on there, and they do have some kids ones. So if you just type in kids when you're searching in the meditations, a whole bunch will come up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Is
You're
there any other questions that you'd like to ask before we wrap up today's session?
none from me, thank you.
Thank you. The ladies in the Facebook group are actually loving it as well, and they're very grateful for your sharing. For anyone that who wants to know more about how to control yourself, how to actually go into the state of not control, but learning how when trigger comes up, you know what to do next. If you're wanting to know more, feel free to reach out to Natalie. I will put her contact again into the comments below and in the show notes as well. Natalie, it has been such an amazing pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you so much, Martha. Thanks so much for having me. I've loved it. The hour flew by. So thank you.
It always does because good time, that's when it happens.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
wonderful having you back here again. And yeah, if you got any other new topics for parents, feel free, let us know in the group that what kind of parenting advice and tips do you want. If you want it, we can definitely arrange something for you to help you. Like we said, that our space here is to support you. We wanted to give you advice to help you in life challenges. Thank you once again for all our audience and our listeners for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you all at next week's Knowledge is Power. Thank you.
Thank you.